that gig, you can imagine. Tank go out, they're crap. Don't know what's happened to them, they're crap.
From his powerful guitar riffs to his relentless energy, Fast Eddie Clarke, the legendary guitarist of Motorhead, helped define a generation of rock and metal. But you probably don't know the ups and downs surrounding his life and career behind his deadly attractive music. Watch until the end to discover every nook and cranny of the once legendary Fast Eddie Clarke. Let's get started on his name. Are you curious about his stage name? There are quite a few misunderstandings surrounding it, but Fast Eddie Clarke himself spoke up to correct it. Now we have the exact answer. Not because of his speedy sexual exploits or even his rapid playing methods, he was given the nickname Fast Eddie Clarke, which he made famous to the general public. As an alternative, it was a demonstration of his mastery of tremolo picking, which is a technique that allowed him to play a single note with an astonishing speed when he was doing solos. This ability distinguished him from others in the rock and roll community, therefore developing his one-of-a-kind persona. Eddie Clarke was born on October 5, 1950 in Twickenham, Middlesex, England. He showed an early interest in music due to his early musical love. This burgeoning passion was spotted by his father, who, following Eddie's fortunate victory in a horse race, was able to purchase his first guitar for the sum of £15. Eddie's adventure with music began with this purchase, which marked the beginning of his lifelong journey. Wait a minute, there's a fun trivia for you about Fast Eddie Clarke. Do you know what job he did before he became successful in music? Please pause this video for 2 seconds to write down your answer below. The answer will surprise you. Please continue watching to get the correct answer. We will answer at the end of this video. For now, continue your journey and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to support us. After spending 3 weeks honing his first song, Summertime, Eddie boldly performed it for his parents, which was a clear indication of the commitment that he had already demonstrated. Eddie had already quit school and started working as a television repairman by the time he was 15 years old. Despite this, he continued to be passionate about music, and he maintained an active participation in a number of local bands. Eddie improved his abilities by performing at local venues until 1973 with the band The Bitter End, which is considered to be a significant band. Eddie's career took a significant turn in 1973 when he made the decision to perform at a professional level. He decided to become the lead guitarist for the blues progressive rock band Zeus, which was led by Curtis Knight. Eddie was able to further hone his art by immersing himself in a professional music atmosphere, which was made possible by this shift, which was fundamental. Eddie's career reached a huge milestone when Zeus completed the recording of the second coming at Olympic Studios in the year 1974. Eddie was the one who wrote the music for The Confession, and Curtis Knight was the one who contributed the lyrics. This song is one of the singles that stands out from this album. During this partnership, Eddie's developing skill as a composer was brought to the forefront. After his time with Zeus came to an end, Eddie went on to record the album Sea of Time before moving on to pursue new opportunities. An unexpected chance presented itself as a result of a crucial jam session that took place at Command Studios in Piccadilly. The session was attended by guitarist Alan Callan, pianist Nicky Hogarth, and drummer Chris Perry. A recording contract was signed with Anka Records as a consequence of the recordings that were produced during this session. After receiving a deal from Anka Records, Eddie Hogarth and Perry left Zeus to establish a new band called Blue Goose with Alan Callan. Blue Goose was formed with Alan Callan. In addition to demonstrating Eddie's versatility and his desire to explore a wide range of musical landscapes, this new endeavor signaled the beginning of another chapter in his dynamic career. Following his time spent with Zeus, Eddie Clarke went on to establish a new band that he called Continuous Performance. The members of this band included Jim Thompson, who played the drums, Ann McCluskey, who sang, and Charlie Tumahai, who played bass for the band Bebop Deluxe. Continuous Performance was confronted with considerable hurdles, despite the fact that they had pooled their talents and determination. Their demo songs were not successful in securing a record deal, which ultimately led to the dissolution of the band at the beginning of 1975. Unfazed by this setback, Eddie decided to forge a partnership with Nicky Hogarth, who had previously been his bandmate under the name Blue Goose. They started on yet another musical endeavor, this time with bassist Tony Cousins and drummer Terry Slater by their side. The unfortunate reality is that this band likewise had a difficult time finding a record company that was prepared to take a risk on their recordings. Eddie decided to walk away from the music industry for a while as a result of his string of unsuccessful attempts. The gap in Eddie's musical career did not persist for very long. Through his relationship with drummer Phil Taylor, he was able to discover a fresh chance in the country in 1976. Phil, who was working for Eddie as a laborer on a houseboat refurbishment in Chelsea, London, introduced him to the band Motorhead. Eddie was working on the houseboat restoration. According to the official biography of Lemmy Kilmister, there is an alternate narrative that suggests that Eddie was introduced to Lemmy by Gertie, a receptionist at the rehearsal studio who was romantically connected with Eddie at the time. Gertie was the person who originally introduced the two of them. In a short time, Eddie started performing with Motorhead. The band's first rehearsals took place in Snob's Rehearsal Studios, which was situated in the Furniture Cave, a converted brewery in Chelsea. These preliminary sessions were extremely important in determining the sound and dynamics of the band. Despite their unwavering commitment and tireless efforts, Eddie and Phil encountered a great deal of difficulty. By the time April 1977 rolled around, they were living in squats, struggling to make ends meet, and even considering leaving the band altogether. Despite all of these challenges, Eddie Clarke was able to prevail through tenacity. A great amount of success was finally achieved by the band as a result of their unrelenting efforts to perform and record. The raw and violent sound that Motorhead became famous for was largely attributed to Eddie's guitar skills, which played a significant part in the band's trademark style. It was around this time that Eddie's career underwent a tremendous transformation, which ultimately led to his becoming a prominent player in the rock and roll world. Despite the fact that they were experiencing both financial issues and internal conflicts, Motorhead made the decision to conduct a farewell gig at the renowned Marquee Club in London. This defining event, on the other hand, turned out to be more of a launchpad than a destination. Chiswick Records' Ted Carroll was the one who arranged a recording session with Lemmy Kilmister, who is known for his strategic thinking. The session was successful, as it resulted in the production of 13 tunes that displayed the band's unfiltered energy and distinctive sound. Both the single Motorhead and the album of the same name, which was released by Chiswick Records in June and August respectively, were titled Motorhead. Despite the fact that the album only charted for a short period of time, it was the beginning of the band's climb to prominence. In the wake of the album's release, Motorhead proceeded on a tour of the United Kingdom, during which they performed alongside Hawkwind and the Count Bishops. The tour was an important time for the band since it gave them the opportunity to improve their live performances and expand their network of devoted fans. Despite this, internal conflicts continued to exist. During the month of March in 1978, Tony Secunda became the manager of the band nonetheless. His tenure was marred by significant volatility. During this time period, Eddie Clarke and Phil Taylor even collaborated with Speedy Keen and Billy Rath to start a side group that they dubbed the Muggers. In July of 1978, Douglas Smith took over management of Motorhead, ultimately providing the band with the much-required stability and direction. The band's trajectory changed dramatically once Smith was successful in securing a recording contract with Bronze Records. In the wake of this new management, Motorhead issued the song Louie Louie Louie, which reached its highest position on the singles chart in the United Kingdom at number 68. In order to promote the song, the band went on a lengthy tour across the United Kingdom, broadcast a session on BBC Radio 1, and made an appearance on the well-known television show Top of the Pops. Louie Louie was so successful that it resulted in an extension of the contract with Bronze Records, which paved the way for even more significant accomplishments. The album Overkill, which was released by Motorhead in March 1979, was a significant event that signified the band's entry into the mainstream music industry, while the title track Overkill earned its highest position on the singles list at number 39, the album itself reached number 24 on the albums chart in the United Kingdom. Additionally, the band's image as a powerful live act was further strengthened by the Overkill UK tour, which was part of the band's exhaustive promotion efforts. In spite of the mixed reception that successive singles, such as No Class, which reached its highest position at number 61, received, Motorhead continued to make progress. They did not let this dissuade them, and instead began directing their efforts on the creation of their subsequent record. In October of 1979, Motorhead released their album titled Bomber, which swiftly worked its way up to the number 12 spot on the album's chart in the United Kingdom. The increasing popularity of the band was further solidified by the fact that the single from the album, which was similarly titled Bomber, reached number 34. The Bomber tour was a big event that featured a stunning lighting rig in the style of an aircraft bomber. This rig enthralled crowds and increased the experience of attending a live concert. Additionally, around this time period, United Artists issued an album called On Parole, which had been worked on in the past but was ultimately put on hold. Adding to the band's repertoire and expanding their popularity, this album reached number 65 on the albums list in the United Kingdom. As the year 1980 progressed, the momentum continued with the publication of the Golden Years Live EP in the month of May. Motorhead's Live recording was a financial triumph, reaching number 8 on the singles chart in the United Kingdom. It allowed the band to convey the raw intensity that they bring to their shows. The band's powerful stage presence was brought to a wider audience through a televised performance at Nottingham Theatre Royal, which was broadcast in April 1981. This performance contributed to the band's increasing awareness across the world. The band Motorhead went to Jackson Studios in Rickmansworth in the months of August and September 1980 in order to record their subsequent album with Vic Mailer as their producer. High expectations were placed on this CD, and the band did not fail to live up to those expectations. It was on October 27, 1980 that they launched the single Ace of Spades, which would go on to become one of the most famous songs that they had ever published. The album Ace of Spades was released on November 8, 1980, and the single reached number 15 on the charts in the United Kingdom, which was a significant step in the right direction. The album Ace of Spades was a huge success, reaching its highest place on the UK albums chart at number 4. This was the highest rank that Motorhead had ever attained. Bronze Records released a special version of the album that was pressed on gold vinyl in order to commemorate the album's position as a gold record. This helped to further solidify the album's popularity. Motorhead's career reached its zenith during this time period, and the band's title tune went on to become an extremely important anthem for the band. Following the release of Ace of Spades, Motorhead went on the Ace Up Your Sleeve tour in the United Kingdom, which lasted from October 22nd to November 29th, 1980, across the country. Girls' School and Vardis were the bands who provided support for the tour, which featured performances of new songs from the album. Furthermore, in November, the band gave a performance of Ace of Spades on the television show Top of the Pops, which further increased their exposure and the level of contact they had with their fans. Motorhead's position as a dominant force in the rock and heavy metal scenes was firmly established as a result of the success of the album Ace of Spades and the tour that followed. They earned a devoted audience and critical praise as a result of their tireless traveling schedule and high-energy shows. It was the band's ability to deliver both in the studio and on stage that assured they would leave an indelible mark on the competitive music business. Instead of being photographed in the deserts of Arizona, the striking album cover for Ace of Spades, which embodies the rough and defiant character of Motorhead, was filmed in a sandpit in Barnet, which is located in the United Kingdom. The band's ability to bring a raw and gritty style to life was demonstrated by this creative choice, which mirrored the undiluted impact of their music. The song Ace of Spades blossomed into an anthem that perfectly defined the spirit of Motorhead, becoming more than just music in the process. Through the song's unrelenting pace and raw fury, the band was able to demonstrate their uncompromising style, which ultimately earned them a permanent place in the annals of rock and roll history. As a result of Eddie Clarke's involvement, the music was imbued with punk-inspired chugs and intricate metal riffs, which were both essential components. His work on the guitars for the songs Ace of Spades, Capricorn Overkill, and Fast and Loose highlighted his flexibility and solidified his place in the band's illustrious repertoire. Not long after the release of Ace of Spades, Motorhead enjoyed a great deal of success on the charts. The song Beer Drinkers and Hellraisers by this band reached position number 43 on the singles chart in the United Kingdom. In 1981, the band continued to gain momentum with the release of The Saint, Valentine's Day Massacre EP, which was a collaboration with Girls' School and reached number 5 on the charts. In addition to their live song Motorhead, which reached number 6 on the UK albums chart, their live album No Sleep Till Hammersmith also topped the list, further establishing their domination in the industry. Motorhead went on their first tour of North America in April 1981, participating as special guests of Blizzard of Oz, which was Ozzy Osbourne's early band incarnation. The trip lasted from April until July. In order to broaden their sphere of influence and connect with new audiences on the other side of the Atlantic, this trip was an essential step. Motorhead managed to squeeze in essential media appearances despite the fact that their tour schedule was extremely busy. In order to promote their live Motorhead single, they gave a performance on Top of the Pops on July 9th. This allowed them to provide their explosive stage presence to people watching television. For the purpose of the David Jensen Show, which was broadcast on October 6th, they recorded recordings at the Maida Vale studio of the BBC in the month of October. Fans were given a one-of-a-kind opportunity to experience the band's live performance skills and hear their raw sound through these sessions. Tank served as the opening act for Motorhead's European tour, which began on November 20th and continued until December 19th. Because of this trip, not only did they increase their fame in Europe, but they also demonstrated their unwavering commitment to their job. Eddie Clarke became Tank's producer after the tour, and he was responsible for the recording of the band's debut album, Filth Hounds of Hades, which took place at Ramport Studios in December and January. During the course of this project, Eddie pushed his producing skills to the forefront, which brought to light his talents that went beyond playing the guitar. The release of Ace of Spades marked a defining period in Motorhead's career. The album's success and the accompanying tours and media appearances catapulted the band to new heights. Their ability to maintain their distinct style while achieving commercial success demonstrated their unique position in the rock and metal genres. Eddie Clarke's guitar work was integral to the band's sound during this era. His innovative riffs and solos on key tracks provided the backbone for many of Motorhead's most iconic songs. His work on Ace of Spades and other tracks from this period showcased his ability to blend punk energy with metal complexity, creating a sound that was both raw and sophisticated. The era surrounding the release of Ace of Spades encapsulates the spirit of Motorhead: raw, powerful, and unrelenting. Eddie Clarke's contributions during this time were pivotal, helping to shape the band's sound and ensuring their place in music history. During his time with Motorhead, Eddie Clarke was not only a formidable guitarist, but he also contributed his voice to a number of songs. Although Lemmy was the principal vocalist for the band, Eddie's contributions enhanced the sound of the band in a way that was completely distinctive. He collaborated with Lemmy on the lead vocals on the song Beer Drinkers and Hellraisers, which went on to become a standard for the band. In addition, Eddie sang a duet with Lemmy on the song I'm Your Witch Doctor, demonstrating the diversity of his vocal abilities. Eddie was able to showcase a new facet of his musical skill by performing the lead vocals on the song Step Down, which was released to the public. It should be noted, however, that his vocal performances were not always voluntary. It was with some reluctance that he assumed the lead vocals on Emergency, and he said in interviews that he had never been completely at ease with those responsibilities. In spite of his doubts, these songs continued to be an essential part of the band's career and served to highlight Eddie's contributions to Motorhead in a variety of different ways. When Eddie Clarke left Motorhead in 1982, it was the beginning of the end for the band from a certain point in time. Because he was unhappy with the way their subsequent album, Iron Fist, turned out, he decided to leave the band. This was a big factor for his departure. The reasons behind his departure were convoluted and were the subject of debate. Eddie asserted in subsequent interviews that drummer Phil Taylor was the one who was responsible for his departure from the band. On the other hand, the official account published at the time claimed that Eddie had freely resigned from his position. The sessions that were used to record Iron Fist were laden with difficulty and anxiety. The fact that these sessions were held in partnership with the punk band The Plasmatics apparently added to the pressure that was already present. Eddie was very apprehensive with the choice to cover each other's songs for the B-side of the Stand By Your Man EP. He believed that this decision damaged the creative integrity of Motorhead, and he was particularly concerned about the decision. According to the author Joel McSiver, Eddie later contested this account of events, claiming that the genuine reasons behind his departure were more complicated and multifaceted. This information was provided by Eddie. Eddie's resignation brought an end to the traditional lineup that Motorhead had been performing with. To take his place, Brian Robertson, who had previously served as the lead guitarist for Thin Lizzy and Wild Horses, was brought in. Despite the fact that Robertson's participation in the band brought about a new energy, the transfer was not without its difficulties. It is interesting to note that Steve Lips, Kudlow, the vocalist for Anvil, had actually been offered the chance to join Motorhead but had denied the offer, which ultimately led to Robertson being recruited. The New York Palladium was the location of Eddie Clarke's last concert with Motorhead, which took place on May 14, 1982. This concert signified the end of an era for the band, as Eddie's departure heralded a big transition in their lineup. This performance also marked the beginning of it. Eddie would subsequently return with the band for a cameo appearance on their live album, Live at Brixton Academy, which was released in 2003. This was despite the fact that the band had previously split up in a contentious manner. Eddie contributed to songs like No Class the Chase is Better Than the Catch and Overkill, which demonstrates his unwavering dedication to the band and the music it creates. This album included a number of guest guitarists, including Eddie. Immediately following his departure from Motorhead, Eddie Clarke became aware of Pete Way's desire to leave his band, UFO, as the bassist. Eddie took advantage of the chance and met with Pete, and the two of them came to the conclusion that they should establish a new band together. Through the use of aspects of their names, they came up with the song Fastway, which represents a new beginning for both of the musicians. Eddie and Pete started the process of building their new enterprise by advertising for a drummer and a voice. This was the beginning of the recruitment process. In the early stages of the band's practices, Topper Heaton, the drummer for The Clash, momentarily filled in on drums, assisting the band in establishing its rhythm and sound. They got a large number of cassette recordings from people who could be interested in joining the band, but one tape stuck out. Eddie was instantly blown away by the tremendous voice of vocalist Dave King, who was the source of the message. Eddie, who was very adamant on getting Dave King to be their frontman, paid for King's journey to London so that he could try out for the role. Following the successful completion of King's audition, he was formally accepted into Fastway as the main vocalist. In order to complete the band, Jerry Shirley, who had previously been a member of Humble Pie, was recruited to play the drums. The band's core was strengthened as a result of this, and it laid the groundwork for their future activities. As soon as possible, Fastway started working on their demo cassettes, which introduced their distinctive sound and demonstrated their promise. CBS Records, a prominent record company, took notice of these tapes and expressed interest in signing the band before they were signed. On the other hand, Pete Way departed the band right before the signing, which might have put their prospects of success in jeopardy. CBS Records continued to be interested in the band despite this setback, since they were intrigued by the band's musicianship and the power of their demo recordings at the time. Following the completion of their lineup and the signing of a record deal, Fastway went into the studio to begin recording their first album project. The album, which was issued under the title Fastway, received both critical praise and economic success upon its release. Eddie's explosive guitar work and Dave King's engaging vocals were brought to the forefront, resulting in a sound that was both new and familiar to rock listeners. Through continuous traveling and promotion of their debut album, Fastway proceeded to build upon the early success they began to experience. Because of their excellent musicianship and high-energy concerts, they have garnered a devoted fan base. Over the course of their career, the band has produced a number of more albums, each of which has contributed to the band's expanding history in the rock and metal sectors. Upon their return to Britain, Fastway was confronted with the possibility of a temporary split, following their first success in a demanding tour schedule. Dave King, the band's frontman, was resolute in his decision to maintain the band's momentum in spite of the challenges they faced. He was successful in convincing Eddie Clarke to bring Fastway back to life, which ultimately resulted in Eddie moving to Ireland, where they established the foundation for their subsequent phase. After undergoing a revitalization process, Fastway went to the illustrious Abbey Road Studios in London to record their second album, which was titled Waiting for the Roar. The album was finished and published in 1986, and it was produced by Terry Manning, who also served as the album's producer. The band Fastway took a huge stride forward with this album, which combined their hard rock roots with production skills that were more highly developed. In the wake of the publication of their album Waiting for the Roar, Fastway embarked on a lengthy tour throughout the United States, during which they performed with the legendary rock band AC/DC. In addition, their tour encompassed Europe, which contributed to the further consolidation of their image as a powerful live act. The never-ending tour culminated in the publication of the live album Say What You Will, Live in 1992. This record captured the band's signature raw energy and explosive performances, which had become their hallmark. Fastway was also responsible for making substantial contributions to the field of cinema soundtracks, most notably for the film Trick or Treat. They contributed the song that serves as the film's title track in addition to a number of other tracks, adding their music to the storyline of the movie. By participating in this venture, they were able to demonstrate their variety as musicians and draw in a larger audience. Eddie Clarke went back to London when the band separated for the second time, and it was then that he started a new musical connection with Lee Hart, who was a solo artist. In spite of the fact that they did not initially have a record deal, their partnership showed promise. Douglas Smith, who had previously managed Eddie Motorhead, was the recipient of the demo tape that they had prepared and given to him at GWR Records. Smith made them an offer after considering their potential and recognizing it. During their time as members of Fastway, Clarke and Hart collaborated to create the album On Target. Among the talented musicians that contributed to this project were Don Airey and Paul Airey, who played keyboards, Neil Murray, who played bass, Bram Tchaikovsky, who played drums, and Christine Byford on backing vocals. Following the dissolution of his relationship with Motorhead, Eddie Clarke formed a new band that had a roster of exceptionally gifted musicians. In addition to Riff Raff, who played drums, keyboards, and bass, The band had contributions from renowned individuals such as Biff Byford and Nigel Glockler of Saxon, Don Airey, and Kim McAuliffe and Chris Bonacci of Girl School. Riff Raff was a member of the band. This disparate collection of musicians offered a wide range of musical genres and inspirations to the group, which ultimately resulted in the creation of 2 albums that displayed the group's overall brilliance. After the release of these albums, Eddie and Lee Hart made the decision to go their own ways and pursue music alone. Eddie had to spend some time in the hospital and go through a period of rehabilitation since the lifestyle he had while he was a member of Motorhead had a negative impact on his health. This period of recuperation was necessary for Eddie since it gave him the opportunity to contemplate his professional life and make plans for his future. Eddie rediscovered his musical passion and published a solo album under the title It Ain't Over Till It's Over. The raw strength of Motorhead and the melodic components of Fastway were combined in this album, resulting in a one-of-a-kind combination that was appealing to fans of both bands. Eddie's old bandmate, Lemmy Kilmister, contributed to the album by composing and performing Laugh at the Devil, which added a touch of Motorhead's characteristic sound. These contributions were made by Lemmy Kilmister. In recognition of Eddie Clarke's significant contributions to rock music, Sanctuary Records has issued an anthology named Fast Eddie Clarke Anthology. This collection includes songs from throughout Clarke's career. Through the release of this compilation, Eddie's reputation in the rock genre was firmly established. The collection honored his efforts with Motorhead, Fastway, and his solo ventures. As a result of the popularity of the anthology, Fastway was reformed, and the band resumed their live appearances, including a significant appearance at the Download Festival in the year 2007. The song Make My Day, Back to Blues, which was a collaboration between Eddie Clarke and Bill Sharp, the keyboardist for Shakatak, was released in 2014, marking a return to the blues origins of Eddie Clarke. The release of this album signified Eddie's return to the music that had first inspired him. It also gave him the opportunity to experiment with a different genre and demonstrate his flexibility as a musician. An unforgettable rendition of Ace of Spades was delivered by Eddie and Lemmy at the National Indoor Arena in Birmingham on November 6, 2014. This performance was a highlight of the year. Fans had a profound sense of emotion as a result of this reunion, which brought together 2 rock superstars who had had a huge impact on the genre being discussed. He had a relationship with Mariko Fujiwara, a Japanese film and music producer, in the 1980s, and they eventually got married. The couple had a strong connection with one another and cared deeply for their Maltese terrier, Cookie. Eddie was able to find happiness and stability in his family life, despite the fact that he had a rock and roll lifestyle. Eddie Clarke, who was 67 years old at the time of his death, passed away on January 10, 2018, while simultaneously getting treatment for pneumonia. His death marked the end of an era for rock music, but his contributions continue to resonate with fans and musicians worldwide. Eddie was laid to rest in Twickenham Cemetery, Whitton, Greater London. Eddie Clarke's journey from a young boy in Twickenham to a rock legend is a testament to his dedication and love for music. From his groundbreaking work with Motorhead to the formation of Fastway and his later solo projects, Eddie's influence on rock and metal is indelible. Eddie Clarke's legacy is celebrated through his music, which continues to inspire and captivate audiences around the world. His life and career remain a testament to the power of resilience, creativity, and the enduring spirit of rock and roll. Do you think so? Comment 1 if you agree with us. And now it will be time to find the answer to the question at the beginning of the video. Do you remember? If not, let me remind you again. Do you know what job he did before he became successful in music? And the answer is... Before joining Motorhead, Fast Eddie Clarke wasn't exactly living the rock and roll lifestyle. He actually worked as a plumber. Yeah, you heard right. Imagine the surprise for his co-workers when he traded his wrench for a Les Paul and joined one of the loudest bands of all time. Luckily, he didn't pursue that profession, right? Otherwise, the music industry had lost a talent like him. What are your thoughts on Fast Eddie Clarke's life and career? Leave your comments below and let's keep the conversation going. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel for more celebrity news, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. See you in the next video.